Heyo everybody, it's Johnny5 Alive here and welcome back to another TemTem video. Today we're going to be boss battling Yareni, the master tamer of the Quetzal Dojo, which is primarily crystal. So stay tuned and let's check it out. Alright, welcome back everybody. If you guys are new here, be sure to smash that subscribe button. If you end up enjoying the video, leave a like. And if you would like to support the show in any way, please do check out my Patreon page. Any support is appreciated. And with that out of the way, let's get into today's boss battle, which is Yareni, the master tamer of the Quetzal Dojo. Again, a crystal boss primarily, and she has a very interesting lineup. I'm going to show some footage in the background of me making my way to her because it's a very complicated dojo, and some of you guys might just want to watch this video to see how to get to her. So I usually don't do that part, the whole dojo part in the boss battles. I usually just show off the boss battles themselves, but this one was a particularly strange one to get to, and it took a little bit of memorization. When I finally got to her, she kicked my butt. Obviously, I'm not using any potions, revives, or anything like that, and I just want to try to come up with a lineup that can do some work against what she's throwing at us. But she's throwing such an interesting combination, so let's bring that up and talk about it here. So she has the Volorand, which is a toxic wind, and a mix, which is a crystal mental. So you can already see these are very strange combinations. So I have some notes here with the Volorand. The toxic wind only takes extra damage from lightning, but it counters water, plant, and toxic, and it takes it'll do half damage to lightning, earth, wind, and crystal. So if you're looking to just tank some damage from this here, you can go in with some lightning, earth, wind, and crystal. However, the mental TemTem is mental crystal, and it's weak against fire, earth, crystal, but it counters neutral, melee, lightning, and mental. So if you're coming in with lightning to take out the Volorand, the mix is gonna basically one-shot your lightning TemTem. So what do? You have to come into the battle prepared to counter the mix, because that thing will do some nasty spells and make quick work of you. So my lineup here, as you can see, I came out with an Anna here and a Mudred. Now the Anna here I never used once until this battle here today, and it's only level 20. It was extremely weak and not really beneficial at all. I thought I was going to be able to use it to soak up some damage and to counter some of the different TemTem in her lineup, but it just ended up being not very good, and I could have used something different. But the Mudred is a upgraded version of the Bun Bun, and you can find the Bun Buns. They're very common, but if you search hard enough, Mudred is an upgraded version of the Bun Bun, and you can get one of those in this act. So that's what I got, and I really like this TemTem because it's an earth crystal, a very unique, kind of one of a kind, unique one. It will take double damage from melee. You got to be careful there, but because it's earth and crystal, it has some pretty cool effects. Now, one of the abilities it has is a stone ball, which does bonus damage if you have a fire TemTem in your team, and that's kind of why I brought the Anna here, so we can get that bonus damage and get that earth shot down on this mix as fast as possible, because it's weak to earth. So you can see that I basically one-shot that mix and got it out of the situation as quick as possible. It didn't go that way the last time I fought her. That mix just made work of my TemTem, so I learned to take that thing out as fast as possible and just don't even worry about the Volorand. Just deal with it later. Now she'll follow this up with a Mudred of her own, and that's kind of an interesting topic because the Mudred kind of counters himself. Earth is one of those interesting elements where it still does normal damage against other Earth TemTem. So you're not strong against your own element. And Crystal is weak against Earth. So technically, the Mudred is a counter to a Mudred, as weird as that sounds, because anytime they do Earth damage to each other, it's gonna wreck. So it's a little bit scary here having a Mudred versus Mudred battle, because yeah, it's basically who's faster at doing the damage. So if you have any speed buffs here, it actually would help. So I ended up swapping out my Anna here for a Sconch. The Sconch is actually a lot of melee. He's kind of like a monk, and Mudred takes 4 times damage from melee. So I figured if I could get out a melee hit on that thing, it'll just do quick work there, and it's a hard counter essentially. And I wanted to get my Mudred out of combat so it doesn't take any unnecessary damage. And as you can see, I just pound out the Mudred with the Sconch, but the Sconch is going down quickly. And here's another dangerous TemTem she pulls out, which is the Noxolotl, a pure toxic TemTem, which is only going to really take damage from wind. And honestly, I haven't had much use of for a wind TemTem in the game up until now, where Act 3 has quite a bit of toxic TemTem, and wind is going to be the hard counter to that. But because wind's only hard counter is toxic, I just didn't see the use of leveling up a bird. It just doesn't have that many utility other than against toxic. So going up against this Noxolotl, it's looking kind of grim. I didn't have a lot. And it does bonus damage to water, plant, and a lot of normal damage to everything else. And it has some pretty scary abilities. So that thing is a super nuisance to deal with. If you have a wind TemTem, I highly recommend bringing it out here. I tried using my Nesla just to get some damage out, but it just died so quickly, and really just a waste of my Nesla. And I actually needed to save that Nesla for the Shuine that she pulls out, because the Shuine is extremely potent. So I end up dealing with these last two, luckily, but she follows it up with a Shuine and a Gazuma. Shuine is a very cool TemTem. It's a rare one that you can get later on in the game, and this is a good talking point on this one. Because it's crystal and water, crystal's normally weak against fire. The water cancels it out. Crystal's usually weak against earth. The water cancels it out, which basically means the only thing that the Shuine is weak against is plant and melee. That's it. It's pretty much resistance against everything else. Anything you throw at a Shuine will just do nothing other than plant and melee. Oh, and our Scotch is pretty much dead, which is our melee character. And we didn't really, I don't think I brought any plant TemTem. Okay, I brought a Deandry, and that's why I brought, I've never used that TemTem before, and I brought that for this battle in particular. So again, looking what I have left is a Rapier and a Deandry. I don't think the Anahir or the Rapier were necessary in this battle. I would have been better off bringing an actual wind TemTem to take out the Noxolotl, and honestly, some plant TemTems, an extra plant TemTem or a melee TemTem if you have one, but Sconch was the only melee that I had. So this one came down to the wire. Here I am. It's basically a 2v2 at the very end, and my Mudred's damaged, her Shuine's damaged, and we're just going at it. My Mudred drops, making it a 2v1, but Deandry uses Rampage and messes them both up. So I came out of this with a half health Deandry, and that's all I had left. Again, not using potions, not using revives, just trying to duke it out. And again, I think there was room for improvement here. I didn't need those fire TemTem as much as I thought I did. Maybe just the one to start the battle off so I could get that bonus damage on my Mudred to combo in. But the Anahir wasn't useful at all. I could have just used my little puppy, and I probably would have been better off running some sort of wind TemTem to fill the void of that fire TemTem to take out the Noxolotl. But nonetheless, we prevailed, and you guys got to learn from my mistakes. So I do think there were some that came in very handy. The key player of this whole battle here was definitely my Mudred. The Deandry saved the day at the end, and you know, the plant is actually really useful here. The Scotch was really good because of the melee damage versus the Shuine, and the melee damage in other situations is very helpful. So those are definitely three must-haves for me in this battle: the Scotch, the Mudred, and the Deandry, or any other plant TemTem, but the Deandry has the Rampage, which is extremely useful, as you can see by the end of the battle. So definitely the most complicated boss in TemTem thus far, making use of the crystal hybrids, crystal water, crystal earth, crystal mental, very unique. Then bringing in the toxic, and then some of the traditional ones like the Gazuma, and the Volrend was a little bit of a new surprise as well. So a little bit of a mixed bag, making it very curious to come in there and try to figure out what to use and when. So you definitely kind of have to know your TemTem and play around with it a little bit. So it definitely took me a second try to take her on, and I still think I could have done it way better. But if you're using potions and stuff, you might be able to make a little bit easier out of it. I just think that using a potion to take up a turn, you're still gonna lose that turn even if you're healing, and her TemTem do such big hits, it might just counteract the potion that you used. So it's not always a make or break it thing, and that's why I try to avoid using those, because it's just a money sink at that point when you don't have to really spend money at all. I think a heal costs more than a lost battle. So better to not spam potions and just retake the fight, in my opinion, and see if you can take her down. Plus you get EXP every time you defeat an enemy, so doing the battle a second time doesn't really hurt. So that's where I'm at currently in the game, but by the time you guys are watching this, I'm hopefully a little bit further into TemTem, and this is Act 3, and as far as I can tell from the wiki and the information out there, it looks like Act 3 is the end of early access. I'm not sure if they're going to add more. I'm really curious to know what's next, what's after this dojo battle, and what else is to come, and as I find out, I will let you guys know. So be sure to check back in as I come up with more TemTem videos. I'll be definitely making those and putting them out to you guys, so be sure to subscribe for more TemTem, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.